entertainment.
Interesting that you would ask me that. So, my name is Dr. Daniel Walker, and I run the Long Beach Indie International Film Festival, but I'm also a professor. And one of the things that we do at Long Beach Indie, and it's been the connective piece between myself and Kevin Clark, has been this issue about pipelines. And how do we try to create pipelines for our youth into these beautiful careers in entertainment, media, the arts, digital media, all those things. And so when we start talking about teaching, one of the things I'm really concerned with is what the K through 12 system looks like in terms of teaching and preparing. And even at the Cal State, UC, and the private college level, what does that look like in terms of the teaching? And I think part of it is we have to teach the holistic thing about being a creative entrepreneur versus just the issue of being the specific skill, right?
Yeah.
We tended to, in the past, you can imagine somebody said, be a screenwriter, right? Be a screenwriter, be a producer, be a lighting tech, but in reality, right now, it's like you have to kind of learn so many other pieces because they make your life easy. The whole issue of technology. I have a big thing for me in my company that I try to only spend 2 hours a day on the phone. 2 hours a day, like working at it, like the thing. And of course, I'm at a different level because I've been working at it long enough, and I'm in a period of manifesting the seeds that I've put in the ground years ago. But everything else I say, I can manage things all around the world because of my phone and because of these apps. I have designers who I've never met in my life who design things for me, sound people I've never met in my life, right? And so this issue of teaching us how to not just access technology, but how do we make technology make our life easier? How do we allow ourselves to expand and exponentially grow our brand, our product, our service, because of the fact that we have these technological innovations that allow us to, you know what I mean? Like me and my girlfriend always talk about this notion of like collapsed time frames, right? Because of the fact that we have these apps and these ways of communicating with each other through technology and innovations that allow somebody to punch in on a, on a production, on the reel. The fact that we can do all these different editing things. Without technology, to move into this world that we're into right now is really, really archaic. And it won't do anything for you. So we have to do our job, K through 12, community colleges, universities, of talking about the real skills that people need on the other side, but also balancing that with these beautiful technological pieces, which are not technological, but qualitative pieces. The notion of storytelling. What does that really look like? You can do all this technology, but the core of everything that we do in entertainment media is storytelling, right? So keeping up on the technology piece, but also making sure that people care about stories.
Right. I completely 100% agree. I went to school for film and media studies, and storytelling was kind of at the center of everything that we learned. Going off of what you said about just this ever-growing, you can't go into it without knowing anything about technology. I think that transcends just media and entertainment. I think that's everything. I think technology has become such an important skill that everyone kind of needs to be sharpened in on, whether it's just learning Microsoft Excel sheets or learning how to do a simple poster in any editing software, just learning how to brand. Branding and technology, I feel like, go hand in hand. What do you think about that?
Well, I think branding goes with life. All right. So just as some of the speakers you had on before talked about, you need to get to the brand before you get to the marketing. But you have to know who you are and what you want to do. Because otherwise you end up going all kinds down directions that make no sense just because you're trying to chase a dollar. In essence, reinventing yourself for every job description or opportunity, as opposed to saying, this is who I am, putting that out into the world. And so in that case, the technology piece is important because, one, you can find out more about yourself, right? You have the ability to get deeper. Let me rewind a little bit. So my brand is, I'm Dr. Daniel Walker. I'm a storyteller and social change agent who uses history, spirituality, and the arts to bring positive change to the world. So that's my thing, right? And it's crazy because as I look a line and you look at all these technological pieces and devices that you have that can help you in this journey to be able to do it, it still goes back to, but what is my brand? You know what I mean? What is my brand? I'm an educator. That's a thing for me. So when people see me, where right now, that's going to come out because it's just who I am. I'm a social entrepreneur. That's just who it is. So that I now reject things that don't look like me. They may look money wise, like me, good. Y'all maybe like, there's some cash right there, right? This is beautiful. But the reality is I can't go down that road because it's not true to my brand. It's not true to my brand. It's going to take me in a direction I don't want to go. Technology won't help that. It'll only exponentially exacerbate that problem because people will think of me as someone who I'm not. And that's the last thing you want to do. I always want to be able to walk in my essence. Like if somebody sees me on the street, they know I'm still that same dude. So that's really what your brand is. So if I can look at you on a coffee table, in a restaurant, at a bar, down the street, you are still the same person. So I'm still talking about stories. Always going to be there. You see what I mean? I'm going to be a social change agent. That's just going to be there. And it's always going to be using history, spirituality, and the arts to make that happen. That's just going to be there. So the technology can expand it, but it can also sometimes make you follow other people. And that's not you. And you need to realize who you are first.
Yeah. So branding comes first, especially when it comes to leadership. Having a brand is way more important than understanding because people can always teach you. People will always be there to teach you what you need, but people can't teach you how to be yourself.
Yes. And leadership is a different thing, right? I mean, leadership is leadership, right? And so you see all kinds of people try to create themselves as a leader online, but it's not what you are. Right. Doesn't mean that you can't become an online leader because people are, right? There's been all kinds of social justice movements in the last 10, 15 years that have been exponentially, their reach, their broadening, the knowledge of them has increased because of social media. I'm not saying that because there are people who can work that out, right? But at the same time, you can't go and perpetrate the fraud, as we used to say. Put yourself out there as some leader. You still have to be able to gain the hearts and the minds of the people, right? And that's about what you do, not just about what you post. So.
Yes. And speaking of doing and posting, people can present themselves as a brand and they can go out and get the job. But a lot of times what we post can really impact our jobs and our work life and what we end up doing in our future. A lot of times the internet can end up kind of destroying everything that you built up and everything that you worked for.
Well, I would say there's two ways in which I look at this. Because one is, so I'm a historian, and because of the fact that I work in that field, there's a lot of engagement, especially in the past few years, about historical monuments, about historical, the way we tell history, this telling of history, right? You can even talk about debates people have today about critical race theory also. So it's debating, can we tell stories anymore? You get me? Which is crazy, right? And so sometimes when you think about the internet, you look at this big behemoth that's out there, right? And you post stuff that is not you. It comes back, right? But it also comes back in a good way. If that's just who you are. I say that because I was consulting for a school district, and someone asked me a question about what I feel about these monuments, and they really wanted to say that we need to preserve these Confederate monuments, but they were couching it in this really interesting conversation about, are we losing history? Now, I know that I've written articles about, I've been online about so I got to go back to who I am, right? I got to go back to, no matter what the context might have been, the reality is I got to go back to who I am. And what am I? A person who says this stuff is junk, right? You know what I mean? And so I have to stick with it. I can't change. And that's why it's so important to be yourself. To walk in it. If you like a glass of wine at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you should post that you like a glass of wine at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So if somebody sees you with a glass of wine at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they understand that's who you are. You get me? You can't walk around with this confining notion of who you are. You got to truly be yourself. So if there's anything I could give anybody, it is be yourself. Your stories are your stories. Your community, when you tell those stories, the world will then gravitate towards the stories. You don't have to pick a story somewhere else. Be yourself. The most personal is the most universal. And if everybody just gets that as a storyteller, then you don't run and find other stories. You tell your truth. Your truth is your brand. Your truth is who you are. Your truth is your reality. You get me? So you just go all the way through with that same mentality, and then you'll be all right.
I think that's great. Even in terms of leadership, I think that's great advice. Be who you are and stay true to it. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your wisdom. I really appreciate it.